Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the power to transform, miracles, stone, and the Gospel of John. We're going to bridge ancient archaeology with biblical history to explore how the Gospel of John frames Jesus' profound power to completely alter reality.
It's a fascinating narrative, really, and it centers on one big question. How exactly does a first-century stone jar reveal the power to transform our lives today? To figure that out, we need to travel back to a wedding feast in ancient Cana. It's right there, amidst a looming, frankly disastrous social situation, that the stage is set for something incredible.
Section 1. The Miracle at Cana, a wedding emergency. Let's set the scene.
So imagine you're at this massive, multi-day community celebration, and suddenly the absolute worst happens. The wine runs out. According to the historical sources, this wasn't just a minor catering hiccup. We're talking severe social disgrace and public shame for the host families. Sensing this impending disaster, Mary turns to Jesus for help. She tells the servants, "Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it." Now, scholars point out something really cool here. This perfectly echoes the ancient advice Pharaoh gave to the Egyptians regarding Joseph, to do whatever Joseph said to survive the famine. Here, the servants are told to do whatever Jesus says to be saved from total social ruin.
Section 2. Stone Purity Vessels, Archaeology and Purity. Moving right along.
Now, Jesus directs the servants to fill 6 massive water pots. But here's where it gets really interesting. It's the specific material these pots were made of. They weren't your standard everyday clay pottery. You see, under Levitical purity laws at the time, if everyday clay pottery came into contact with something impure, it couldn't just be washed clean. It had to be completely shattered, smashed to pieces. But stone vessels? Entirely different story. Stone was considered impervious to impurity. It basically retained a perpetually pure state, which made stone vessels incredibly popular among first-century Jewish communities.
These specific massive stone jars were known as kalals or craters. They were these large, lathe-turned chalkstone basins used by Second Temple Jews specifically for storing pure liquids. And they were absolutely huge, standing up to 80 centimeters tall. Archaeological evidence actually shows they were carved in local Judean workshops right out of solid blocks of soft limestone. So they were an absolute staple of first-century Jewish purity practices.
The crucial point here is the sheer magnitude of the event. 108. Historical sources tell us that each of these 6 pots held between 18 and 27 gallons. So when Jesus asked the servants to fill them to the absolute brim, he was dealing with a minimum of 108 gallons of water. Think about that for a second. That's not some quick little sleight of hand. That is transformation on a massive, massive scale.
And the nature of that transformation, it's staggering. Simple molecular water is instantly transformed into wine, which is this highly complex mixture of hundreds of chemical compounds. In a literal instant, Jesus bypassed the years typically required for planting vines, harvesting grapes, crushing them, and fermenting the juice. The text suggests this demonstrates an absolute dominion over both physical substance and time itself.
Which brings us to Section 3, Signs of Divine Power, the Gospel of John. Let's keep going.
This breathtaking event at Cana kicks off what biblical scholars often call the Book of Signs. The water-to-wine miracle is just the very beginning. It points us to the ultimate scope of Christ's authority over the natural world. We just saw his power over substance and time, but as the Gospel of John progresses, we see this power extend across multiple domains, over geographic distance, false traditions, physical ailments, and ultimately life and death. Let's see how this builds.
Chronologically stepping through these signs of power is pretty amazing. First, he heals a nobleman's son from 20 miles away, literally bridging geographic distances with just his word. Then, he heals an invalid at the Pool of Bethesda, completely dispelling false traditions about the pool's magic and those rigid Sabbath laws. Next, he walks on water, subduing chaotic physical elements. Later on, he heals a man born blind, essentially creating brand new physical tissue. And the whole thing culminates with raising Lazarus after 4 days in the tomb, conquering death itself.
Section 4. The Power to Change Us, Spiritual Growth. Let's dive into this final part.
This brings us to a really powerful realization. The sources we're studying suggest that Jesus' dominion wasn't just some grand display of cosmic authority. Actually, it was meant as a deeply personal invitation for individuals to experience their own spiritual transformation. Consider this profound quote: "If he can do that, then he can turn my challenges into blessings." By recognizing his ability to alter molecular structures in water, we're recognizing that.
So let's break down what that transformative power looks like in a practical sense. He exchanges ashes for beauty. He turns evil into good. He changes our mistakes into growth, and he transforms sin into progress. Just as he filled those ancient, pure stone pots to the absolute brim, and just as he brought light to the blind man's darkness, the text implies he can take our greatest deficits and dramatically multiply our spiritual capacities.
The crucial takeaway from all of this is that Jesus' most profound miracle isn't really just altering liquids or walking on waves. It's his power to eternally change us from what we were into what we can become. That is the real miracle here.
So, as we wrap up this explainer and reflect on the fascinating history of those pure, unyielding ancient stone jars and the limitless power of the Messiah depicted in these texts, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. If Jesus can change water to wine, what can he transform in you? It's a thought-provoking way to look at history for sure, and a powerful personal reflection to carry forward. Thanks for learning with me today.